On my 3 hour and 35 minute corruption part 2, my second day in Charleston, I was approached and brought to a church. This guy claims his name was Douglas Bourne. I should have ID'd him, checked an ID before I even started talking to him. He told me sometimes bad governments, we take a bribe, and then he tells me that my daughter was cleaved in half in a courtroom, and that if I give him this, he's going to give me a contract he was talking about on my life. And he says, but first, we've got to get you fed. It was obvious. You can hear this Keith Hudson saying, we're never going to let you work another day in your life. You're going to pick up dog stuff in the park. You're never going to wear a shirt and tie again, etc. I think you get the point. Next, I was without food for a couple days. I tried to get online at the shelter, and I was first online, and they said, I'm sorry, you've got to get off the line. And I said, why? This is my third day on this line. I'm first online. He says, well, I don't care if you are online at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're first. I'm telling you to get off the line. I said, well, can I at least have a plate of food? And he says, no. So what they're doing is, you're either going to starve to death or eat the poison. There is a video of Mr. and Mrs. Robinson on Life Today. There's a little African American girl making a decision, looking down at the brown water to drink it or not. If you drink it, you're going to die, and if you don't drink it, you're going to die. So I stayed to get all these recordings on these guys. These guys were hot and heavy, telling me, admitting everything every single day. I was thinking about my daughter and a promise that I made to her, bringing her justice. So what they were doing is, this Keith Hudson approaches me in a van and says, hey pal, yeah, I'm one of your friends, and I know friends of yours. So I said, well, who are these friends of mine that you know? And he wouldn't tell me. He says, oh, just from church. It's always somebody from church. So he takes me to Huddle House, and they started poisoning my food. There was a black guy behind the counter, Leo, and all the employees back there, they were paying him $30 and $40 to spike my food. Hey, this guy's hungry. He's a friend of mine. Make him up nice hash browns and some grits and everything. And they're all looking at each other, winking at each other. And picture yourself as sick as you've ever been, on your knees in front of the toilet bowl, throwing up. You feel like you're going to die. They wouldn't let me in the shelter. They would not let me work. I had to hide out in the woods and just basically sleep like a deer curled up in a ball in the woods. And they were poisoning the heck out of me every day. This Keith Hudson was poisoning my food. What I would do is start saying, hey, could I have it to go, and take it in a bag. He ripped the bag out of my hand so I couldn't hide it and sample it. And then this other guy comes up, William Cameron, on a motorcycle. He says, hey, I'm friends with people you know from the church and from Aiken. And I demand, I said, look, I need the names. I need some names of people that you're friends with that are friends of mine. I need to know. And they won't tell you. It says, come on, just trust me. Let me buy you something to eat. So a few of them at Huddle House, Mr. Burgess, who lives on Camp Road, he was a good guy. He was witnessing what happened to this William Cameron, who's coming up on the tape next, admitting exactly what they're doing to my food and water. And Mr. Burgess witnessed him make the mistake of putting his hands on me. And I'm sure you can imagine what the results were. The cops came, and I told the cops, I go, look, let's do it. Press a charge on me. You guys are doing this. You have these guys assaulting me. They get their asses whipped, and you take me to court and throw me in jail. I says, but before you do that, I want you to go ask this guy what he was saying to me in the past few weeks, and what he was saying he was putting in my food. And if you want the court to hear that when we get to court. They went and spoke to him, said, I don't think it's a good idea if we go to court and press a charge on this guy. One, there's witnesses that saw you put his hands on him first, and what the whole plan is, what we're putting in his food, he's got on tape, and somebody out there has these tapes. This is William Cameron admitting what they're doing to my food. I was sick as a dog. A few of these guys were like, hey, come on, let me buy you a meal. So I said to this Cameron and this one, 2 meals come out. I said, hey, I'll tell you what, let me get mine to go and let me eat yours. So he let me eat his. He was very disgruntled about that, and I tried to get the bag of mine, which was dosed, to go, and they wouldn't let me take it. So he said, okay, you can have mine. And we started the conversation. I said, how do you guys get your hands on this stuff? Tell me about it. He says, it's called sodium fluoride rat poison. We're putting it in your food and water. I said, how do you guys get your hands on this stuff? He says, sodium fluoride, man, rat poison. We put it in your water. Next I asked him, I said, well, what would be the purpose of that? Meaning, you're putting this in my food and water. I wanted him to say it. He says, slow kill, man. So I'm sitting there after the meal. I've had many meals. Different guys approach you. They all convince you, hey, it's okay. I'm from the church. I know some people that you know. I would demand these people's names. Sitting there with this camera on, and he says, you come in the world with nothing, and you leave with nothing. Pretty soon, you're going to be dead. I had lost probably at this point, I think about 40 pounds. I hadn't hit 50 pounds yet. And he says, pretty soon you're going to be dead. What are you going to take with you when you're dead? After I caught on to what they were doing, I started taking the meals to go and burying it. They found the samples, some of the samples. There's some that they will not be able to find. I found a Salvation Army on Dorchester Road. I went there. Hey, how you doing? I'm a veteran. Yeah, come on in. I ate 3 days in a row until they found out that I was eating, and they told this guy Bill there, hey, you are not allowed to give him clean food. Kick him out. Next time he comes in, tell him he's not allowed to eat. These guys wouldn't let me work specifically for the purpose of I would be able to eat food if I worked. I would be able to eat food. He next says, we've got you on a blacklist and we are starving you out. This is still Cameron at Huddle House, Camp and Folly on James Island. He was telling me, one, you are on the blacklist. Nobody's going to hire you. We have a word out everywhere you go. We tell people not to hire you. And he said, you don't need a job anyway. You're already dead. And I was like, well, why? And he said, sodium fluoride causes cancer. Mary, what I was talking about, call Miss DeRosa. Miss DeRosa, after this girl Sandy started calling the judges, Danielle called me and said, Dad, you told me to tell you when they start harassing me at the house. They're forcing me to say I don't want to see you and you have to go to court. But when you go to court this time it's fixed. It said this girl Sandy's calling the house. So shortly after that, I wasn't able to talk to her. She was working at a pizzeria. A third party said, hey, Danielle told me to tell you she's working at a pizzeria. These people are nut cases. I walked into the pizzeria. Danielle's talking about in her 1387 that you just don't go to the restaurant to eat, you go to see people. We pretended we didn't know each other, and a few times she would serve me slices of pizza. And just being around each other, the Kia thing, she was helping me at the Kia. T.D. Jakes knows about it. He was saying, we're not going to let you see your daughter. We know she was helping at Kia. And he also mentioned, hey, Doug, I have to worry about my job. So when I said, hey, call Mr. Rosa, after this girl Sandy, this nutcase Sandy, started calling the judges and calling her mother, Danielle told me, and then it got really bad on Danielle, really hard on her. And the separation was, just imagine yourself. So Miss DeRosa, the cheerleading coach, approached me in ShopRite. Says, hey Doug, I got a problem. Danielle is hanging out with a bad crowd. She turned around 180 degrees. She quit cheering. That was her passion. She was always the greatest kid in the world. She would never, ever, ever take drugs. Mr. Rosa approached me and said, I don't know what's going on, and I couldn't tell her at that time. She's like, well, Doug, I've got a problem. Danielle quit cheering. I know she loved it, and she turned around 180 degrees. She's hanging out with a bad crowd. Danielle writes, I am being isolated from my friends. Now, what I am telling you about what they're putting in your food and water, that is how they get people to do exactly as they want them to do. Danielle writes, toxic water, the air you're breathing. I would call an emergency line after I read that. The media changes. Danielle said they change what you mean. They alter your thought. All of a sudden, the media puts on that the air in China that you're breathing, you have to wear a mask. They change what you mean. I want you to go by what these nut cases are talking about in Huddle House, and then read Danielle's thing again. Don't ask Danielle. She says, children, girls of my age should not be talking about this stuff, and needs and wants. Kids need protection. She can't tell you she's in a bad situation. I was able to talk to her for 40 seconds. Her cuckoo husband gets on the phone and says, you two were being too intimate with each other. I'm not going to let you talk to her anymore. She said, Dad, I love you more than anything in the world. I think about you every day. So you can't go and ask Danielle. You've got to go by not what I'm saying. You've got to go by what these cuckoos are saying. I took the time. I almost died doing this. Now, cuckoos in your opposition are going to say, oh, well, you can't say that. Oh, Doug is saying, and we're going to put him in jail. We're going to do this to him. We're going to do that. You have to stop, and say, no. He's not saying that. You're saying that. Anything that I have ever said is, hey, I have these guys on this flash drive saying this. What do you think about that? How can you help people in the country? How can you help save lives? How can you help my child? By just listening to what this man says. Now, this Epworth Church, all of them on that James Island, hey, I know some friends of yours. Oh, they're all from the church. Really? Well, would you mind telling me what are their names? Oh no, come on in, have something to eat. You look like Skeleton Man. Come on, we'll feed you. You don't want to eat there either. This Rich Robinson was dosing the heck. Hey, how about some coffee? No thanks, pal. They were putting it in my food. There was a nut case at this Epworth church in the band. They want, hey, we heard you're a good bass player. We're friends with your friends from Aiken. Look, I need the names of these people from Aiken that you know me through. Why won't you tell me their names? And they say, oh, would you play bass for us? They start poisoning your food, putting stuff in your food as well. There is a cuckoo at that church that was working for this Rich Robinson. I was dying. I was starving to death. These people will convince you that they know people from Aiken, from the church and the band. Now they separate themselves from this Rich Robinson. They say, we're not a part of him. He's nuts. We're going to give him the sword. And they say, give us your tapes. Give up your tapes. The one lady's name is, I forget her name. She's in the choir at the church. Her husband is Stu. Stu is taking these tapes, listening to exactly what was happening to me, and saying, yeah, we got it. We got you, buddy. There's millions of dollars being paid out. We arrested that guy that was saying that to you last week. And then I say, what the heck's going on? Give me my tapes back. He says, no, I can't give you your tapes back. I have them somewhere at my house. I was trying to stay alive. Make no mistake. Danielle says, toxic water. The candy I was eating in her 1387. The air that I was breathing. They pour this stuff on me and around me, and it goes up. This guy, Greg, at the edge, I was getting water from him. He says, oh, yeah, it dissipates up into the air. You're breathing it. It gives you cancer. We ordered it online. It was a deadly, toxic fluid that we ordered. Danielle writes about it. Then Danielle says the media acts like they know what they're talking about, and they change what you mean, alter your thought. Don't let anybody change anything. Don't let anyone say, oh, well, Doug said. I never, ever, ever, ever said. I let the devil do all the talking. And say, here, I didn't say it. Listen to this guy. Each one of them explains exactly what they're doing in their own words. So a barrier you might be going through is, oh, he said that, and no. I never said that. Those guys say, oh, you're going around telling this people your sad story and this crazy. I don't tell people anything. I took the time in Charleston, 3 years of Auschwitz, just to prove it to you guys. So when they say, oh, he's saying so, no. Just push play. Say, this is what you said. So there's this cuckoo at the Epworth Church in the band. Her name's Julie. You look up evil. You have never, ever, you can't imagine what evil is at that Epworth Church. This girl Julie is giving me food. And I'm getting sick as a dog. I'm like, what the heck is going on with my body? She says, we're putting nuclear stuff into your food. Now, here's somebody else saying the same thing. This is back at the Huddle House with this guy Cameron. These guys are dosing the heck out of my food. I said to him, I've got to keep my eye on the water with you guys. He says, you've been exposed to radiation levels that cause cancer. What was happening is I would approach people and try and be unique and different, make eye contact with people on the street. Say, sir, I need to try and get $1 from 3 different people to get one burrito at Taco Bell. It costs $3.38. And, usually a guy will say, well, why don't I just give you the whole $3? I said, because I don't want that big of a commitment from you. I'm just letting you know I need $1 from 3 people is my goal for the day. I would take that money and take 50 cents if you call somebody from their payphone. They are paid to give them the number that you just dialed. That is called an emergency number. The number that you just called is no longer good. You can never, ever, ever call that number again, because they call that person at the end of that number and say, you want to work? When Doug calls you, if you tell anybody what he told you, you will never work again in your life. It's like this guy, Keith Hudson. Go back to Roe versus Wade, Brown versus Board of Education, and listen to this Keith Hudson say, you're not going to work ever again in your life. You're not going to work for the next 5,000 years. That's what they do to people. What was happening is, while all this was happening, I would take my $3.38, my only way to survive without being poisoned, to stay there and record them the whole time, is take my lunch money, that $3.38, and I would call Mike, leaving voicemails and saying, Mike, you've got to do something here. These guys are poisoning me. I'm giving you all these tapes. You guys are listening to the tapes. What the hell's going on? And at that Epworth church, this Rich Robinson had the whole choir, the whole band, taking the tapes and listening to them for a year and a half and sitting down with me. Oh man, how you feeling? Oh, you're being poisoned. We're listening to the tapes. Don't worry, we already arrested 2 guys. You're going to be paid all this money, just lying to me. Meanwhile, I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm calling Mike, cursing him out, saying, I can't believe you guys are listening to this tapes and nothing's going on. And it's very simple. Mike is being threatened. 50 cents 3 times a day, my $3.38 for a burrito to keep me alive. I would go on a payphone and call Mike. Very simple. They just threatened Mike with his job, not to tell anybody what was happening to me. Each one of these people that you've ever heard on these tapes, they mosey into your life. They act like they know you, they're your friends, and they're from the church. This next guy is Stan Motley. He says, hey buddy, come to my house and stay on my couch. It's 27 degrees the other night. And the whole purpose of each one of these people, they get paid to bring me into their house and poison the coffee. You heard the last guy say, yeah, the radiation level. I said, well, I got to watch my water. And each one matches the other one. They talked about a biodiesel nuclear product. You hear them say it. It's not from my lips. It's from them saying this. And the last guy says, yeah, it's also radiation levels in your food and water. So this next guy is Stan Motley. He says on a tape that was stolen, click, 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 I send people emails from you. And I said, well, how do you do that? He says, I just type away. And it matches what this Rich Robinson says. Oh yeah, we send people emails from you. Well, how do you do that, Rich? Well, we hack into your account. You get paid a lot of money to do that. So this next guy is Stan Motley. And I was telling him, yeah, you know, these guys won't let me work. And then he starts getting weird, and it always comes out who they are. They're not really angels or anything like that. This is the devil, and they're there to poison your food. I'm like, well, who are you? And he says, well, you're not supposed to be talking at work because she is your boss. Now, the she he's talking about is this cuckoo, Sandra Altamari. Says then she's going to put a little contract on you. This is Stan Motley, 1196 Julian, James Island.
Oh, you're not supposed to do that. But if you do, you should let your employees know. because she's his boss. That way they sign little contracts.
Now this guy's looking at me in the eye. He says that he acknowledges that she's his boss. This girl is a cuckoo. She was at my house. She claims that she is God. This was definitely the devil's daughter. You've got all of her friends call her the Jersey Devil, and she calls herself God. Now this guy Stan, he says, he's looking at me and says he acknowledges that she's his boss. Anybody I worked for after this bribe took place, she started calling the judges, calling my daughter's mother. They said that they're my boss and I have to do what they say or they're going to fire me. And he says now, he says he acknowledges that she's his boss. He's looking at me, meaning that he is me. And then he says something really weird I didn't understand at that point. He says, and she also runs the hospital.
He acknowledges that she's his boss. And he acknowledges that she can't give him a raise, can't give him a contract. But she runs the hospital.
After he said that I acknowledge that she's my boss, meaning the Golden Corral job that I had before they fired me for going down and telling someone, hey look, these guys are putting this stuff in my food and water. I have tapes on everybody. You've got to help me. I go to my Golden Corral job and you've got that on tape. The Mexican kid Amador says, hey amigo, I know some people that want to kill you. And he says that Mr. Pace is going to fire you tomorrow. And he's telling you ahead of time, hey, tomorrow Mr. Pace is going to fire you because you went down and told the mayor, Joe Riley, who I don't trust. He could have done something about it. He was just laughing about it. I told him, look, I have these tapes. These guys are putting stuff in my food. They're firing me. This Keith Hudson says, we fired you from your job. He says, you talked and we fired you. So this guy Stan also says he acknowledges that she's his boss. He's looking at me and being demoralizing and says he's being mundane and she's give him a contract. And then he says she runs the hospital. This was at the 50-pound loss. This was like near death. I had to definitely get out of there. After this Keith Hudson says, so he picks me up in the van, says, hey pal, can I buy you a meal? No thanks, buddy. And that's the conversation I'm having with this Keith Hudson where he says, well, you know, stop pissing people off. We won't poison you. And et cetera, everything he's saying. And it made sense to me later. I went to Jersey to try and present these proofs. I just told you what was happening to me on this James Island at this cuckoo Epworth church. Their whole entire band, they're filthy. They're the most evil people you could ever meet in your life. Each one of them saying, yeah, we know this guy Rich, our pastor, he's no good. We know what he's saying to you. We heard the tapes. We've got all the other tapes of this guy Cameron and this Keith Hudson, what they're doing to you, poisoning you. We've got investigators. They're all listening to these tapes. It was all a big lie. It was a death camp. And after a while, I said to this guy, Stu, that was harboring and holding all these tapes at Epworth Church, Stu, where's my tapes? There's another girl, Laura, there in the choir. You've got her on the 3 hour and 35 minutes with this guy, Stu. I said, guys, where's my tapes? Oh, I've got them at my house, and they're in my drawer, and they won't give me back the tapes. So I gathered what I had left. 1/3 was stolen. The other third, this guy Stu and this nutcase Laura from Epworth Church, they all have these tapes at their houses, and they're told not to give them back to me. So on my way to Jersey, I was like, wow, I've really got to get this information across. They told me this one person's name, someone I met in North Augusta, said, yeah, we're going to put her lights out. And that alarmed me. I was like, what the heck does that mean? They mentioned somebody else's name. They mentioned a girl named Mary, and they said her name. And I said, wow, I hope this isn't happening to my friends. And I made a mad dash towards New Jersey. I was going to try and find my friend Jim up there and explain what was going on. Say, look, you've got to hear these tapes. You notice this guy Stan just said, she runs the hospital. I'm like, well, what does that mean? They arrested me and threw me in a hospital. When I got to the hospital, there's absolutely no reason for me to be there. There's never any trial. There's never any allegation that I did anything. They just immediately, and when I saw the judge, he heard me telling this this Epperly guy that says, talk or go to jail, talk or go to jail. I said, I told the judge, I know you. You're taking bribes. That's what they erased off of the '04 Nestor Guzman. When I said that, it's blank, blank. It's just erased off of there. So I get to this hospital, and I'm like, well, what the heck am I doing here? And this lady, Nagra, says, hi, the judge told me to tell you, you're going to be here for a very long time. We're going to make delays. I thought maybe more than an hour. I didn't know delays were going to be 3.5 years. That's what this guy Stan was just talking about when he said she runs the hospital. Basically, everywhere you go, this girl has these people doing all these things to you. Okay, if you notice, I told you all these guys, oh, they're your best friend, and they're from the church, they know your friends. I'm like, well, I don't understand why you won't tell me the name of my friend that you know from the church. And it turns out, after this weird conversation with this guy Stan, she's your boss, you acknowledge that she's your boss, or she's going to give you a contract. And if you go back on that 3 hour and 35 minutes, you hear this cuckoo from the church. He says his name is Doug Bourne. We're going to give you a contract. And your daughter was cleaved in half in the courtroom. We know you're mad, but we're going to take control back from you. And this guy Stan is talking about a contract now too. And I'm like, okay, well, you just said something about a girl who's my boss and everything, and then he comes out and they each admit they know this cuckoo, Sandra Altamari, that's behind this. So then before they dose your food in your coffee, you want to get the heck out of there. But I wanted to get him on tape, and I asked him, hey, he starts telling me, well, here's what it is. My father is mafia, and this girl Sandra told me to bring you to the house and everything, and to go to North Charleston, and we pay people pay us some greenbacks. We get some drugs from North Charleston, and we're trying to make you look like a drug addict by putting in your food. So then he says, here's what's going to happen. Here's how the mafia gets off. He says they go to trial and everything, and they have this way of making it a hung jury, and it could take 6 months to a year from another trial. I'll let him explain.
What they're planning. Hey, what the heck was definition you said last night about hung jury? How the heck does that work? Jury? This means you're declared a mistrial. They can try you again if the jury's hung. Like they can't come with a verdict. You know, like if one person disagrees, says they're not guilty, but all the other people won't budge and declare not guilty as well, then it takes days for this to happen. Then they declare that they cannot reach a decision. So then the prosecution has to again charge him with the crimes and to retry him if they wish to pursue it. And if it happens over and over again, because that just gives them more time to prepare. It takes, from maybe trial, sometimes it takes like 6 months or 8
Said what they do is hung jury, they get one person on the jury and they pay them off or threaten them, and it's a hung jury, and they try and do this over and over and over.
Process all over again and got it They're not stalling the trial by hung jury. They're going through the trial process. So it takes 6 months to get to the trial. Then it can take, depending on the case, 4 months for the trial to get over with. So you're looking at 10 months after they charge him with the crime. And then the guys I'm going against may not be just in any jury case. Yeah, but you said that for the hung jury, he has to threaten like one witness's kid. Not a witness, a juror. Like the person that says whether they're guilty or not, the jury of their peers. I mean, there's a movie on it. There's actually a movie. Now, if I go through with all this, do you think that's like the most likely thing that's going to happen?
He said earlier, and I turned the tape recorder on this time, he said if the hung jury, it takes like 6 months to a year to do it, and they keep doing it over and over and over. And he said that they threaten the one juror's kid. That one juror out of 12, I want you to think about this. If you're a prosecutor, whoever you are listening to this is from the mob. This guy knows Sandra Altamari. He's talking about the contract that was on my life. He's talking about she's your boss at work, wherever you go, she's there. And she also runs the hospital. I didn't know what that meant at that time until I went home to New Jersey. I found out, obviously. Saying, well, the hung jury is one person on the jury, and they threaten that person's kid. He verifies that he said that. Yeah, I said that. And that's basically what they do. I got him to repeat what he just said. I said, hey, you said that they, in order for the hung jury to happen, is they threaten one juror's kid. And he says, yeah, that's what we do. And then I said, well, if I go through with this, he says, well, if you go through with this, if we don't get the hung jury, everybody's going to flee the country. Says that they'll never stand trial, and they'll flee the country and usually go to a place like Brazil.
They'll never stand trial. They go to Brazil, they're home free.
Says they go to Brazil, they're home free, and Brazil does not have an extradition with the U.S.
Brazil doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States, so they can go there for millions and send them back.
He said that some of them will choose to go to trial, and they'll bargain out of it with the prosecution, and they can just get 2 years in jail and probation, and that his dad has experience with that. He just said that they will make a deal on the side with the prosecution and just get 2 years in probation, and that they basically get a get out of jail free card, and that his dad, the last thing he said is, my dad has experience with them. Easter Eve 99, I had this woman, Sandra Altamari, over my house briefly. I slept with her. There was something wrong. I had some kind of a germ. I tried to contact her and confront her about this, and she was hanging up the phone. I had her friends telling me that she had some kind of a thing that was contagious, and she didn't tell me about it. I started going to a doctor in West Patterson. The doctor was her friend. She was telling each doctor to tell me there was nothing wrong. They would do all kinds of tests, all these tests, everything under the sun, and say, no, there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, look, pal, there's something going on. There's something wrong with me. Behind the doctor's back, I went to Chilton Hospital. The lady there at the lab at Chilton said, I want you to put this into this cup. And I was like, you want me to put into the cup? She says, yeah. I went back to her. I saved the report. And the lady said, well, you go back to your doctor and tell him he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, because you have some kind of a germ, and it's on this paper here that I'm going to give you. You bring it to him and said he's got to treat you for this. I went back to him. He swore that the lady at Chilton was crazy and there's nothing wrong. I went to a doctor, and they said, you just heard Stan say, well, she runs the hospital. Now, with the accusations and the tapes I have on these guys, if I go to the hospital or the doctor for the flu, which is coming up with this Stan, he explains it all to you. If I go to get treated for this, I get committed to a mental institution. Hi, how you doing? My name's Doug. I think I have the flu. Oh, really? They write a phony report like this Nagra at this Trenton place. What are you here for? Oh, I allegedly violated a restraining order, and that's it. That's all I told her. She writes all this crazy stuff on reports. I told her all this stuff. Different places I was in the country. I did this and I did that. I told her one thing. I tell each person limited information. I allegedly violated a restraining order. That's it. It's the only information I get them. Everything else that they write, it's all garbage. They just make it up all themselves. So now this guy Stan's telling me, you go to the doctor willingly, we're going to put you away. So I've been trying to get treated for this germ by the Sandra Altamari. I went to an Augusta hospital. I said, hi, my name is Doug, and I have this germ this girl gave me in 1999 I just can't get rid of. The lady says, okay, I'm going to put you in triage. I said, I don't understand. She's all creepy. They send me to a psychiatrist. Now, mind you, exact words, hi, I have this germ I think I need to be treated for. They send you to a psychiatrist. What does that have to do with a psychiatrist? They see you coming. Anything they could do to put you away. Because I have all these tapes. It all adds up. They said, well, before he gets these tapes to anybody, we're just going to put him in jail. I went once again to the Augusta hospital. And I said, hi guys, enough's enough. You know this girl. You know what I've been through with this. Treat me for it. They refused to treat me for it. I had to see a psychiatrist. In your mind, well, what did you tell them, Doug, when you went in there? No. I went in and said, hi, my name is Doug. I have this germ from this girl, 99. They would not even hear that or treat me. I had to see a psychiatrist at the Augusta hospital. That's what this kid Stan is talking about when he says, well, she runs the hospital. And he says later, it's coming up, he says, You go into the hospital, you tell them you have the flu, you're going to see the doctor. And whatever that doctor says, so basically, I can't even go to the doctor for the flu, or else I get committed to a psychiatric institution for just saying hi. My name is Doug. You've never seen me before in your life. You don't know anything about me. I think I have the flu. I'm just giving you an analogy. They're going to put me in a psychiatric institution for the rest of my life if I go to the doctor. Let this kid Stan explain all about it. Next, this kid is bragging for his girlfriend Sandy. He says, if you go to the doctor willingly, whatever that doctor reports on you, but then what you have to worry about is also your other health condition. Now, one, this germ that this animal gave me, 1999, if I go to the doctor, I've done it every time. One, her doctor, she tracks me everywhere I go. In West Patterson, a week after I knew her, there was something wrong. I was calling her up. She wasn't answering the phone. And I said, okay, I got to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor in West Patterson. This guy was creepy. He knew me. Oh, there's nothing wrong. You're crazy. And I'm like, buddy, there's something wrong. I'm telling you. No, there's nothing wrong. I went on my own once again to Chilton. The lady's going, you tell this doctor to call me that you have this germ and he's got to treat you for it. I have the paper. It says what it is. I haven't been with anybody in 15 years. They start throwing all these girls at you. We want you to be with this girl and talk to this girl. You can't talk to anybody that you used to know anymore. My daughter says that they've got me in isolation from my neighbors. So he just said, hey, if you go to the doctor willing to, whatever that doctor reports. Once again, I went to the Augusta hospital. Hey, I have this germ. Can you help me out? Oh, he just said he was suicidal. And I had to see the psychiatrist. I'm like, what are you guys trying to pull? I just told you, basically, I have a cough and the flu. Can you help? And they said, oh, you got to see the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist is really, really working hard to get me committed. And I'm like, look, lady, I need your name because I just told you I have a germ and I need some kind of lab test. That's all I told you, and I have no reason to be in front of you right now. It was disgusting. That's what Stan's talking about when he says she runs the hospital. She's your boss. I hope you can tax the heck out of them for firing me from each one of my jobs, especially Golden Corral. I got it live. This guy, Amador, says, yeah, amigo, you told the mayor and we're going to fire. Mr. Peace is going to fire. I said, Mr. Peace is part of you guys? He says, yeah, Mr. Peace is going to lie and say tomorrow when he fires you, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So you got this kid Amador saying that. Now, what this kid Stan said is, what you've got to worry about is your other health condition. I was dying. I think I had a near-death experience. I was having heart attacks. This guy Cameron says the rat poison is to speed up and accelerate heart attacks. And they are also putting radiation into my food and water. And when Stan says what you got to worry about is your other health condition, I cannot be treated for it. I went to one guy, I walked out of the woods, I knocked on his door, I was white, I weighed 150 pounds, I lost 53 pounds, they dosed me, I knocked on this guy's door, I said, look, I don't know what's wrong with me, I think I'm on my deathbed here. He says, let me take you to the hospital, let me take you to the doctor. He He says, you're going to have to get committed to the hospital, because when you go to the doctor, you're going to tell them that we're poisoning you. Nobody's going to believe you. We want to take you to the doctor. Come on, live, choose life right now. Let me take you to the hospital. You tell him that we're poisoning you. And I said, no way, I can't do it, man. I can't get committed. I'm going to take the tapes to New Jersey. That's what Stan's talking about, is your other health condition. And I got pissed, and I made a motion, and it knocked his juice out of his hand. He's like, oh, sorry. So let Stan continue.
What you also got to worry about is your other. I'm sorry. No, that's all right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. You got to worry about your other health conditions everywhere else on your body, because you go to a general doctor, like you can't get sick because you can't go to the doctor. If that's what they're trying to do, is inform the doctors. Yeah, you think that on a thing. Well, they're over and over. They're stating it, but a doctor's opinion weighs more. You know who the hardest people get to make a man is? Are doctors. A doctor, even if you got the flu, let's say you got the flu. Dude, I can't go to the doctor. That's another technical report. Right. Whereas they're fucking me out of my insurance money for the job and fine. Don't worry about that.
Now, I went to this kid's friend's house. I was having a heart attack in the woods. I really thought I was going to die this night. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I pounded on his friend's house. And I said, look, you guys just dosed me again. What did you put in my food? He says, I want to take you to the hospital. I want to take you to the hospital. Go and tell the doctor that we're poisoning you. Go and tell them, because they commit you. And he says, you can't go to the doctor, or else each doctor you go to, we're just going to lock you up. Okay, go to the doctor. He's telling you, if you go to the doctor, tell him you got the flu, that doctor lies. There's something coming up that you haven't heard yet, that there are proofs where different people in public, I go to the doctor and I say, hi, I'd like to get a prescription for a new prosthetic. And in front of a whole room of people, the nurse says, I want you to come in that room with me alone. I say, well, lady, there's no way in hell I am going in that room with you alone. I want there to be witnesses. No, if you want the prescription for your leg, you have to come in the room alone with me. I said, no way in hell I am going with you. That's coming up. You haven't heard that yet. Then I went to try and find a job at the Aiken place on Richland across from Greg's Gas. And the VA lady says, I won't see you unless you tell me that you have PSED or whatever that thing is. I go, look, lady, I don't even know who the hell you are. How do you know me? She says, I want to be in that room back there alone with you. Each person, once I'm alone with them in a room, they make up a lie. I just told them that I want to commit suicide, just some crazy story. So any one of these people, I say, I am not going to be alone with you in a room. They're all going to say I sexually fondled them. These guys are desperate at this point, desperate. I want this kid Stan to explain more. He's bragging. He says, you get the flu, you can't go to the doctor because we're going to screw you. You go to the general doctor and tell him you got the flu, that doctor is going to lock you up and just write a report that you said all this other stuff, whatever you told him, they're just going to put it on a report. That I told them something crazy besides, hi, I have the flu. I have experience with this. It happened to me at the Augusta Hospital. I told you what happened. I don't have to tell you 100 more times. You guys are getting on me about repetition, but Mark 4:15, whenever I say something, devil comes and he, like Danielle says, they change what you mean and alter your thought. That's why I keep repeating things so people understand. He says, even if you go to a general doctor, we're going to screw you. Says you can't get sick. That's what we are trying to do, is get you to go to the doctor, because the report. And I said, well, that's what you guys are doing. You're making the doctor's report phony, and you guys are firing me. This kid lives very dangerously. He's dancing on thin ice. After that, he starts cracking up. Just listen for yourself.
You go to a general doctor. A that on a tape.
Well, they're
playing it over and over.
They're stating it, but a doctor's opinion weighs more. You know who the hardest people get paid to stand is? Are doctors. If a doctor, even if you got the flu, let's say you got the flu.
Dude, I can't go to the doctor. That's another personal report.
Right.
Where they're fucking me out of my insurance money for the job is fine. Don't worry about that. I'll do that.
I thought you. I didn't realize that. I didn't know. I didn't see it.
It's like a dark glass.
Like you said last night, this kid's gonna say, well, just humoring your insanity. He's gonna say that, you know, wanted to go to, and the court can order you to go into a psychoanalysis. They can order you. Yeah, these are corrupt, but I have enough evidence that they're trying to do that get themselves out of Florida jail. Each guy on tape states that claim. All right, that's what we claim, but you pretend that I'm a neutral person. Right. All right. I see you. Okay. I'm a jury. I'm looking to convict this guy, or maybe not. Who? The guy that fucking with me when I came here. One of the questions is gonna come up. Wait, how do you know this guy does? Two, how does he know he's coming here? Why are you threatening him with a contract on his life? Why are you stating that you want him to go to the VA for a job? He states later, he states, well, it's for an assessment purpose. And you're not going to get fed. And you're not going to get a job. And he says, do you want to carry on your little crusade, or do you want a job?
Most important thing that Stan just said, it says that's what we are trying to do, is get you to go to a doctor. Any doctor. I told you what happened to me when I was trying to get treated for something at the hospital. He says, even a general doctor, we're going to know you went there, and they're just going to make up this crazy report and get you committed. Then he says, and when you get to court, we are going to do a psychoanalysis on you. Now, you have this guy, Keith Hudson, stating, I am going to put you in jail for 300 years or 3 months. I could do whatever I want to you. I could kill you. I could do this or that. I went to jail. Make them pay for that 3.5 years I went to jail, stating ahead of time. Now this guy is stating ahead of time what is going to happen to me if I proceed and complain to court. They tried every single thing that they could do to get me to go to the doctor. You hear him saying, it's all corrupt, we're going to have the doctor fixed and make this report on you. I almost died getting you guys this information. I knocked on his friend's door. His friend says, come on, get in the car right now. I will take you to the hospital. I want you to tell them that we're poisoning you, that exactly what we all told you on the tape. They didn't know at that point they're being taped. So they want me to go to the doctor and go to the hospital. And if you don't go to the doctor or the hospital, they will poison you and make you dead. Now, while you're being poisoned, or he says, well, you can't even get the flu. You can't even go to the doctor. We're going to screw you at the doctor. So they were poisoning me to death. I thought I almost was ready to die one night. I told you I knocked on his friend's door, and they're trying to rush me to the hospital. It's all over for them once they get me to go to the doctor or the hospital. You hear him bragging, laughing his ass off. You can't even get sick. You can't even get the flu. You go to the doctor, we're going to lock you up. Then he says about going to court, and we can do the judge can do a psychoanalysis on you. This is all stated ahead of time, guys. This Keith Hudson, one, telling me I'm going to jail, and two, this Sandra Altamari is friends with this Judge Guzman. This is also, this kid Stan is her friend. I told you they all trick you. Hey, buddy, it was 27 degrees last night. Why don't you come over to my house? At this point, I'm like, okay, who are you now? Oh, come on, I know your friends. I know your friends. Name my friends. What are their names? They trick you into coming into the house. And then the conversation gets like this, and I record it. So this proves, one, this Keith Hudson saying, I'm going to put you in prison if you tell on us. We're going to make up lies about you, say you raped your 9-year-old daughter, which they erased off the transcripts, Judge Guzman's transcripts, the mother saying he used to do sexual things to my daughter when she was little. They're all erased. Now you hear this guy saying, well, when you do get to court in New Jersey, the judge is going to do a psychoanalysis on you. That would be this Dr. Dasher. This Dr. Dasher, I've been reporting every single day, every single week, every month, every year. I try and Facebook people. I tried to Facebook you guys what was happening. And this Dr. Dasher, he has a conflict of interest. I say that on the Judge Guzman transcripts. Look, you can't get this guy Dasher in here. He's corrupt. You're mob. I'm confronting you guys on each transcript. I told you they erased it off of the Judge Guzman transcript from '04. And this Dasher just writes a report. He says, why are you here? I said, I am here because you, Judge Guzman, your girlfriend Sandra Altamare, are taking bribes from 1999 to 2003. And he says, okay, you didn't just tell me that. Take a Seattle test, and I want you to stop halfway, and I'm going to fill the rest of the dots in for you. I tried to report him on grievances, and they just lock you away. This is proof, guys, that these guys have this whole thing planned. In Charleston, I am so sorry that I wrote that word to you on a Facebook. You know which one. Now, if you were Mother Teresa, I would write that word to you. You're going to say, whoa, what the heck? I can't believe he put that word in there. It's going to make you say, stop and think. Wait a minute. Something is very, very wrong. He would never talk to me like that. This is proof, guys. This kid stand in his, you can't even go to the doctor. Imagine that. Imagine there's some kind of civil rights case there where you can't even go to the doctor or they're going to lock you away. You hear him saying, well, if you go to court, we're just going to have the psychoanalysis done. And if you ever do make it to prosecute us in jail, we're going to bargain with the prosecutor, get 2 years plus probation. Or if we can't bargain with the prosecutor, we're all just going to move to a non-extradite country. I explained to him what I was trying to explain to you guys. I had these tapes, and every single sentence these guys, or you guys, I'm telling him, every single sentence you guys say, I'm just going to play the tape.
Now, he's screaming every single sentence this guy's saying. So nobody is going to be able to force me into psychiatric jail when the jury hears all these people, the corrupt, stating their plan to do that to write a phony report.
Basically told him, I have tapes hidden away. He didn't know he was being recorded. I have tapes hidden away, and before I go to some psychiatric hospital for the rest of my life, I'm just going to play the tapes to everybody, sentence for sentence. I never got that far. Once again, I am so sorry. You know I would never, ever write that word to you, that F word. I put that there basically to save my own life. Sitting in the car with me and the time I spent, I knew you a brief while. I would never ever talk to you like that. I put that there to get your attention, make you stop and say, wait a minute, something is very, very wrong. You finally saw it. Once again, I apologize for writing that word to you. I'm just trying to get your attention. It'd be like going to the Pope and saying that. I would never, ever, ever speak to you like that. It was basically to get your attention. Now, at this point, I thought up the street from this kid's house, this Ethworth Church was listening to these tapes. They were, and they were all laughing. Ha ha! They know I'm dying. They know it's murder. They're hiding these tapes from everybody. And every day I'd go back to see them. Guys, what's the progress? What's going on today? I almost died in the woods last night. Oh, well, we got this one guy. Everybody's listening to the tapes. They just lied to me. This guy, Rich Robinson, is a murderer. You hear him stealing the tapes. Stealing. Exactly what all these guys are talking about every day, poisoning me. It goes on and on and on, hours and hours and hours of evidence of these guys poisoning me. So now you hear this kid Stan, he's bragging. I told him, well, look, I didn't know that he was part of this Sandra Altamare, who was connected with this Rich Robinson and this whole Epworth Church crew, hiding all the tapes. Oh, where are my tapes? Anybody listening to him? After I realized that I've been had, I'm asking them all, hey, give me my tapes back. Hear this girl, Laura, I've got him in my drawer, I think, at my house. This guy, Stu, from Epworth Church, I've got him at my house somewhere. I have to look for him. They all know exactly what was happening to me. Now this kid Stan is saying, well, the average person isn't going to believe it's real.
Average person is going to think some of the shit that you bring about is real. And so, like,
I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to say a word. They are going to all state their case.
So my whole biggest thing with you guys and everybody is, hey, I'm not going to say a word. I'm gonna let them state their case. So what this kid Stan is a part of with this Sandra Altamare in this Epworth Church is murder. He's saying, well, even if your tapes basically did get out, your tapes aren't going to get out because we have them. Basically, anybody I bring these tapes to, I'm like, hey guys, this is what's happening to me. You're not going to believe it. I'm going to let you listen for yourself. These guys are poisoning me. My teeth are, every week a new tooth falls out. They're turning black. They're rotting. This guy Cameron at the Huddle House is poisoning my food. I almost died a couple times in the woods, and my teeth are falling out. And would you listen to these tapes? They're like, oh yeah, we got you. Hey buddy, we got it. Every week they're like, oh yeah, we just arrested another guy. You get the point. So now this kid Stan is bragging. Well, nobody's going to believe it's real. Basically, he's saying that because, one, they have all the tapes. Nobody's ever going to hear the tapes because they have them. And after a while, I was like, what the heck is going on? Hey, guys, give me my tapes back. So the 1/3 of the tapes I had left, I just gathered together and I bought a coat that had like 100,000 pockets. I had all the tapes in pockets because if you put them down on the ground, they would find them and crush them and destroy them, or throw them in the water. You understand what I'm saying. You hear what this kid Stan's saying? One, you've got this guy, Keith Hudson, stating, you're going to jail. You're going to jail for nothing because you could prove we bribed the judge, and I'm going to make up lies and say you raped your 9-year-old daughter. Now you hear this kid Stan saying, basically, well, when you get to New Jersey, the judge is going to order psychoanalysis. I'm like, I didn't know what he was talking about. This was all a big plan. They wanted me to go to New Jersey so Judge Guzman could arrest me. When I saw the judge, I was like, oh, no big deal. This is the bribe judge. I got him on all these transcripts. I'll just say, before I could even say that, they said, they just dragged me out and threw me in jail with no trial. I hope this does something for you and you can do something with it. Take a little time out. Perry, what you're talking about right now is the enemy is so scared that if you say it and plant that seed in someone else's heart and they're finally going to understand it, that's when they're in trouble. And that person plants it in another person's heart, and another person's heart, and another person's heart. That's when they're in trouble. Mark 4:15 comes and takes that word away. Takes that word away. That's why I'm so repetitious. You are absolutely on fire right now, my friend. You know what you're talking about. There was a guy that was just on the television with the mayor of Baltimore. Ram, you were on there with them. Ram, it's exit 153B off the Parkway, by the way. I think you should take your job a little bit more seriously. You're talking about a bunch of dead kids in Chicago, and these guys, I have them all on tape on how they do it and how they poison people and how they do this and that. And basically, I think you should really take your job a little bit more seriously instead of just laughing about everything I'm saying, because it's not me saying it, it's each one of these guys stating their case on the tape. There was a gentleman on with you guys tonight with the mayor of Baltimore and Rahm. And I forget his name. I should have wrote it down. He said witnesses are being intimidated, etc., etc. You hear this kid straight from the horse's mouth. This is the mob saying how they hung jury, one juror, they threatened their kids. That's what they do to my daughter. It says, if you tell anybody about what we're doing with the human trafficking with you and trying to get you into forced marriage with us, if you tell anybody, one, we're going to hurt somebody in your family, or two, you're going to drink the toxic water and you're going to breathe the toxic air. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Before I got to New Jersey, I got out of Charleston alive. I went to Aiken. My mom and dad were being threatened by a neighbor called Lanny, pushing them around, threatening them, calling them rats. My mother broke down, hysterical, crying, begging for her life, saying she was getting threatening phone calls and that she couldn't breathe. And she was eating and drinking, just like my daughter states. She went to the Aiken Hospital begging for her life, saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. There's something wrong. The food I'm eating and the air I'm breathing. And what they do is they bring a psychiatrist out. Psychiatrist threatens you. I just gave you an example. I went to the Augusta Hospital years ago. And I said, hey guys, I'm here for this germ this girl gave me in '99. Can you take a look at that? They would not even take a look at it. You got to see a psychiatrist. You hear this kid stand explaining exactly, bragging without getting his head snapped in half, laughing his ass off on how they're firing me and how I can't even go to the doctor with the flu or what is going to happen to me. Guy on Rahm from Chicago and the mayor of Baltimore, you said, well, witnesses are being threatened and intimidated. You hear this kid stand directly from the mob's mouth saying how they do the hung jury thing and threaten one witness, just one witness, threaten their kid. Now, what you've got to do is get each juror and say, look, anybody approaches you, you got to stand up and say something. I am being threatened. Anybody that is being threatened, you have to stand up and tell the man next to you, to tell the man next to him, to tell the man next to him. Once you put a light on it, they won't ever do it again. You see these guys, what they did is I proved what they were doing. I explained to someone years ago in North Augusta, if you put a light on it, just put a light on this darkness, it stops. They will never do it again. Rahm, I'm talking to you right now. My daughter was almost a victim of human trafficking. She's in a forced marriage with the mob. Toxic water, toxic air. You have all these guys admitting exactly what they do. It's not from my mouth. There was a guy on your show said, you know what, I'll offer you mental health treatment and this and that and the other thing. I got a better idea. How about I expose you and you play all these tapes of this kid Stan from the mob. His states earlier his father has experience with it, the hung jury. The one straight guy with the mayor of Baltimore and Rahm, who said, you know, witnesses are being intimidated and threatening. This kid Stan explains it all to you. Rahm, I'm glad you're having a good time. You said, hey, what exit off the Parkway are you? That's really cute. I'm exit 153B. Now, you got kids dying in Chicago and bringing drugs into Chicago. And you have this Mike Aiello stating how each one of you guys is on the take. I didn't say that. You guys said it. There's no more, oh, well, Doug said that. No, I never said anything. You said it. I can only repeat what you tell the entire world, which I hope they hear to start saving lives from all the bullshit. Now, Rahm, I was watching your body language, and I remember this kid Stan telling me I asked him, hey, who is the big fish, by the way? Where does it all come from? Is the big fish a mob guy or a government guy? I'll let Stan explain it. And Rom, before I do this, I prayed on this, and my father told me Psalm 28:5. Look at it yourself. Let's see what the mob has to say about who the big fish is, Rom.
I'm trying to figure out if the big fish is a mob guy or a guy in government. Because mob guys are the known to pay off the government officials. Yeah, I mean, the guy in Charleston sneaks it on tape like first aid here. And the York been famous for that. Barry Mayer, the machine in Chicago. You ever heard of the machine? That was the mayor of Chicago.
Talking about you, Rom. This is the mayor of Chicago, the machine. The mob's got him in the pocket.
That was the mayor of Chicago. The mob had him in the pocket.
This is the mob stating, Rom, that they have you in their pocket and paying you. So I'm glad you had a good time tonight, Rom. Talking about kids' lives, and glad you had a good time. Anybody that runs for office in Chicago, basically that's the capital. I enjoyed Richmond, Virginia. That is the capital of the Confederacy. You know that the mob is very affluent in Chicago, so if you're going to run for office in Chicago, you know you are going to be approached by the mob. Myself, if I was running for mayor, or if I knew I was going to be mayor and I got that position, when they do approach me, and they will approach you, I would say, sorry guys, but it's not that way. Don't approach me again. And the man that approached me, I would basically tell someone else to tell someone else, hey, I was approached today by so-and-so. And that's what I think a solution is. You tell the man next to you. Tell the man next to him. Tell the man next to you. Not everybody is corrupt. There's a guy that I think everybody should aspire to. His name is Jerry Spezial. He did a great job catching drug dealers and keeping your kids alive, trying to find out who the big kingpins are. He can't be approached. I don't think he can. I don't think any of these guys already know that they can't approach him. There's Rudy Giuliani went after the mob. He can't be bribed or approached. So what you have to do is stick together. And if you do run for office and you decide, hey, if I am approached, just tell the guy next to you. You know who the person are. You would have a support group behind you. And everybody stick together and support each other and say, hey, look, I was approached. And I don't take bribes. I've been approached. I didn't have to eat locusts and honey and be out in the field all those years. I could have been at HSBC making the easy 100, 110 with my feet up on the desk. The manager feeding me all the good loans was the deal I was offered if I was quiet, and that didn't work out too good for them. So hope you guys completely understand what is happening in this country, what is happening to our kids, and hope you do the right thing. Jesus Christ is Lord. Danielle, I love you. Put everything, every ounce of me into this, every day and night, every second. And I'll never quit, Danielle. Jesus Christ is Lord. God bless America.